third padded practice today for America's team. Obviously, Dak has been making his rounds with his interviews that we have seen throughout the course of the last 24, 36 hours or so. But today, the defense, Bobby Belt, seemed to get after Dak Prescott and this offense quite a bit today. What the defense and how they performed today?
Yeah, the defense was just on top of everything. These first two padded practices I felt like were ones that the offense won pretty handily, but this one out here today, the defense just locked in. The mojo moments that we've all become familiar with, they were doing red zone stuff, like right on the goal line plays. And I think they ran 6 of them, and the defense stopped 5 of them. And so they were high success rate. And the one that did score was with the second-team offense. So first-team offense didn't even score in these scenarios. 9-on-7 stuff, they had some of their better work today on defense. And anything in team period was just completely dominated, whether it was the run game or the pass game was completely dominated by the defense. And so strong overall day in terms of unit competition for the defense. I think CeeDee Lamb is still having good practices out here. Dak didn't look bad today. It's just there wasn't a lot going on. There was one time where, everything was kind of guarded pretty heavily, and he went off and he scrambled, and you heard repeatedly after he scrambled and the play ended, Malik Hooker walking right up to him and following behind him and going, "Throw the ball, Dak. Throw the ball. Throw it." And so they're getting a little chippy. They're talking some mess to each other, but it's a good time.
So when we talk about talking, one of the guys who from camp is he's not interested in talking a lot, but when he does, it sounds very fun, is Mozzie Smith.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to evaluating him, obviously you're not going to do it just off of the first 3 days of padded practice. However, this is when you could start evaluating those guys in the trenches because everything before really does not involve them. When it comes to the first-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys this year, what have you seen over the last 3 days of practice?
It's funny. He has not flashed yet, really. But the problem when you take guys like Taco Charlton or Tristan Hill, and those guys came into their first padded practices, they weren't flashing, but they were ending up on the ground. Like, that's the concerning thing you don't want to see. You don't want to see these guys get, pushed to the ground or just completely dominated. We're not seeing that. I mean, there's a lot of double teams that he's getting, and he's not, getting a ton of push, but he's not getting just, bowled over either. So I think he's finding his spot. He's finding his place. He's, has had a couple of decent reps. I mean, you can definitely see the power. You can see the explosion. You can see all of that on display when he's out there. It's just, it's not going to look super dominant right out of the gate. You need him to be a space eater. You need to, make sure that you're keeping your run and chase will linebackers and guys like that clean. That's what he's meant to do. And so as long as he's eating up space, I think that's all they're really concerned about.
Bobby Belts joining us here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fans. Going to be with us through the entire 7 o'clock hour here on your home of the Cowboys and Texas Rangers. Obviously, as this team gets ready to conclude their second full week of practice, give me a guy that has stood out offensively that we weren't talking about coming into camp that has a realistic shot of making this team by the time we get to the end of training camp.
I will do that in 1 second. I'm just curious. Are you guys able to pick up the
Not quite.
No.
I hear that music is happening. I can't quite hear what it
Clearly
is.
you bump into something out there.
It's like right back there, the weight room, and so it's thumping pretty heavy. A guy that has impressed that we weren't talking about is Jalen Brooks, the 7th-round wide receiver from South Carolina.
Not the Jalen I anticipated hearing.
Well, Jalen Tolbert has been good out here. I think everybody was, hopeful with Jalen Tolbert, though, and everybody knew he had the talent. It was just like, okay, we're going to kind of be on watch here. Let's see how things go. And he's done well. Mike McCarthy praised him this morning when we talked to him on Shan RJ, and so that's all positive. But Jalen Brooks was a guy that I didn't really have any expectations for coming out here. And if camp ended today, there is no way you can leave him off the roster. Because he's just been so good. Incredibly tough. Kind of a little more savvy than I would have expected. Some of the hand fighting he does with the defensive backs at the top of his routes. He flattens out really well on stuff that's in breaking. He fights for the ball. He works back to the ball. He's got a good catch radius. Big guy. And he's a big-time special teams contributor, too. So, to me, I look at he is everything that everybody always tried to sell us that Noah Brown was for 6 years. I know. Reggie already looks very, very in his feelings about it.
He loves 5th and 6th wide receiver.
Yeah, because look, we talked.
This is the GOAT of those 5th or 6th wide receivers. Reg.
me and
this man, as soon as the pads came on, he showed them like I'm a man out here.
All Oxnard already,
when
huh?
they separate man from the boys, like he honestly did, he honestly did not pop when it was T-shirts. When they were just out here kind of running around doing stuff, he did not stand out. It's just when those pads came on and it becomes more physical.
Oh, he's a gamer.
And he is stepped up. I mean, today he had a couple of good plays, but those first 2 padded practices specifically, he was making a lot of plays, and he's been in with the first team a lot. And Dak, you can hear it. Dak will, chirp at him when they're out there practicing. Dak is a big fan. You are constantly hearing him go, "That's it, 8-3," or "Way to go, 8-3. I love to see it." And so they are. I think they're all very, very high on what he's showing in the passing game, in addition to a guy who they already figured was going to be more of a special teams ace anyway.
All right, so I'm not doubting your assessment by any means, Bobby.
Yeah,
the reason why I was and if you're watching us on any of the visual mediums that we have right here in 105 through the Fan, you'll see that I was kind of grabbing my face, and it's because me and Bobby were having conversations as we normally do, and this one was about the craft.
Oh, you actually talked to him? You get the chance to talk to him?
I was texting with him.
Oh, okay.
And we were talking about the art of interviewing and the art of follow-ups. And the reason why I grabbed my face is because I knew what the natural follow-up had to be, and it's one that I'm going to hate. We're not at 53-man roster conversations yet, but you talked about him, Jalen Brooks being one of those guys that you would have to put on your roster if the decision had to be made today. Yep. What does that look like for you right now? Because obviously there's a couple of names that there might be a name that you'd have to leave off that would really shock some folks if Jalen Brooks is in.
Well, if Jalen Brooks is in, I think that means Simi Fajoko's out. And I'm a fan of Simi Fajoko, and I like him a lot. And I think his potential is really intriguing. But I mean, look, these practices you've got to show it out here. And this is year 3 for Simi, and it's something where he has not separated himself yet. In fact, the first day, that first interception that went all over social media was one that bounced right off his hands. And so now when they did that red zone compete period today, he was the only one who scored. He had that touchdown catch. But I think that when you look at the practices, the consistency out here, the guy that you have to point to and say, well, he's got the advantage right now would be Jalen Brooks. So, your top 4 wide receivers are obviously going to be Jalen Tolbert, Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. And then behind them, do they keep 5? Do they keep 6? What is it they're going to do there? I think right now it's really difficult to say anybody other than Jalen Brooks should be the number 5. Even though I know there's a lot of people who really like Vonte Turpin, I still think Jalen Brooks has had a better camp than Vonte Turpin.
Do you think having Deuce Vaughn there makes it so that, and it seems insane to say this about a dude who was just a Pro Bowler, where Vonte Turpin has any level of fear? I mean, again, we're still early in camp, right?
I don't know, because I mean, CeeDee, when we talked to him, was talking up Vonte Turpin as that's the guy who's really taken a step forward, and he's been out here and he's had some decent practices. It's just I know that they think about, when it comes to smaller receivers, they want the guys who are going to be able to play inside and outside, and I don't see that Vonte Turpin's a guy who can play outside. But, I mean, he's had some good practices, and he is still a dynamic player in the return game. I just don't know how much room you have to have 2 5'5" guys on your team.
Excellent. Bobby's already starting controversy. You'd love to see it.
I mean, that's what Bobby does.
What I bring to the table. I mean, we can get really controversial. It is past 7 p.m. Dallas time. You know how I like to get down.
That's true.
All right, relax, Bobby. Relax. You got plenty of time for that over the next 40 minutes here, right here on the Get Right. It is.
I'll get y'all canceled yet. Just you wait.
You get yourself canceled. Let me tell you, buddy. We're not
something.
going down with the ship. You will be jettisoned, my boy.
I'm trying to look on the Zoom. Oh, it's KG. Okay, KG, you do have dump button control. Because I know Larry, my Longhorn brethren, he's back there. He ain't hitting that dump button. So KG, you better.
First of all,
KG,
what Larry's not going to do is claim you as part of Longhorn brethren, because you didn't go nowhere near. All right.
Don't sing the damn choo-choo song now.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. You were the dude that spent the $100,000 on the Archman and Carter. Is that you?
You damn right. Damn right.
Bobby got 7 jobs so he can afford one Archman and Carter.
That's exactly.
I work all these jobs so I can afford a Panini America Arch card for the guy who's probably the 3rd best quarterback right now at Texas.
I like that.
Oh, look at Larry. He's in agreement. Larry don't say nothing, but he don't agree with that right there. All right, Larry. All right.
I mean, but right now, Malik Murphy and Quinn Ewers are probably better. That doesn't mean they will be, but just for right now, that's just probably the case.
Shout out to Arch in Texas.
He's not wrong. Malik Murphy in that spring game?
No, I know he was cold.
Anyways, all right.
Steve Sarkisian is going to have his choice of quarterback. Good for him.